Time, oxygen, and thus hope running short. Worse still, the company's claims about how much air these 5 men even have should now be treated with some caution, as we'll reveal. Nobody's ever attempted such a rescue at anywhere close to this ocean depth. But forget rescue. Nobody knows where the OceanGate Titan even is. Canadian search aircraft picked up a banging sound yesterday and this morning. That sparked a wave of global straw clutching.
When you're in the middle of a search and rescue case, you always have hope. That's why we're doing what we do. With respect to the noises specifically, we don't know what they are, to be frank with you. The P3 detected noises. That's why they're up there. That's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why they put sonar buoys in the water.
But Ryan Ramsey, a former Royal Navy submarine captain, regretfully concludes this news does not progress anything very far.
So the Canadian Maritime Patrol aircraft have used sonar buoys in order to aid some form of detection. The range that those sonar buoys go out to is not as far as we would hope, but also to be able to detect that particular sound is exceptionally difficult for them. They also haven't geolocated from that, so even if there is a sound, they don't know where it is, and we're in a collapsing time frame at present.
The American TV journalist David Pogue visited the sub and was, well, surprised.
Wow.
We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
You get there and then you start seeing this stuff, and now your mood crashes and you get a little worried. Like, is this the level of polish and sophistication we're talking about?
He personally witnessed safety failings on his trip.
You are bolted in from the outside. There are 18 bolts in a circle around the hatch. And by the way, they only fasten 17 of them. The 18th one is way up high, and they say there's really no mathematical difference.
Other alleged safety failings are far more serious. Company whistleblower David Lockridge says he was sacked after demanding more testing of the submersible 5 years ago. Court documents reveal allegations of serious safety problems. First, the carbon fiber used had prevalent flaws and visible flaws in samples for the Titan. He again stressed the potential danger to passengers. As the submersible reached extreme depths, the constant pressure cycling weakens existing flaws, resulting in large tears of the carbon. He begged the company to do more testing. Second, the viewport or porthole problem. He alleges the company's own engineering department found the viewport at the forward end was only built to a certified pressure of 1,300 meters, although OceanGate intended to take passengers down to depths of 4,000 meters. Everett, Washington State, OceanGate's company base. Not even a sign at the shabby front door on a small trading estate. The company wasn't just warned about structural safety. The industry body told OceanGate's boss 5 years ago that ignoring normal submarine regulation was plain dangerous. 36 industry experts wrote to OceanGate. The letter said the company's mission to take tourists to the Titanic must only happen with third-party industry regulation. In short, they begged them, please do what every other submarine company does.
There needs to be some form of regulation. I mean, if you look at the submarine services around the world, each of them is regulated by their own nation. And if I look at the Royal Navy and the submarine service within the Royal Navy, there's huge amounts of regulation because these are exceptionally complex pieces of kit.
OceanGate's boss, Stockton Rush, responded by saying expensive regulation delays innovation. A year later, he said the sub was, quote, obscenely safe.
I think it was General MacArthur said, you're remembered for the rules you break. And, you know, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
4 years on, Stockton Rush is one of the 5 men trapped in that submarine out there somewhere.
Well, Bart Kemper was one of the signatories of that letter drafted to OceanGate in 2018 from a group of experts warning the company that its experimental approach could cause damage to the industry. I began by asking him for his reaction to the missing sub.
We don't know what's happened. We don't know whether it was an implosion. We don't know if they're still alive. We don't know. And that, for the families, I can just begin to imagine what they're going through. However, don't forget, this is classed as a experimental item. This is not a tourist submarine. Tourist submarines are designed for untrained people, tourists, and they have the access plan, just like any sort of Disabilities Act or any sort of access for people of varying abilities to get in and use it. The crew is trained. It's much more like getting on an aircraft. This was an experimental. And as it's been coming out in the media, they've signed waivers that multiple times say this is experimental.
You were part of a group of people who warned Stockton Rush
Yes.
about this vessel and its potential to damage the whole industry.
As an engineer, I was obligated to do this, and other people did the same thing. What we wanted was, first of all, for more transparency. At the time, back before this letter was put together, there was less transparency what was going on, and that was one of the concerns. But this letter was actually never issued out. But the reason why I signed off on it, and I was willing to speak, is because I'm a licensed engineer, and I have to put the public safety first.
So did Stockton Rush know about your concerns if this letter was never sent?
Yes. Mr. Will Conan of Hydrospace, he is the chairman of the group, and he took the time to reach out and had a good conversation with him, and changes were made. However, as a matter of record, they put on their blog a very clear statement that they felt that they wanted to trade the security and the time of using codes and standards and using classification societies. They wanted to trade that for innovation, and they felt that was worth the risk. So,
do you think those repercussions should be that your industry now is regulated from the outside?
It's already regulated. What we have here is a person that just went straight out to international waters where there is no jurisdiction and there is no regulation to put on someone. There are 9 or 10 other submarines that could reach this depth. And all the other ones, except this one, have taken the time and effort to go through classification societies and have that oversight.
This may sound like a cold question, and I don't mean it that way. But given what you said about what this expedition really was, and the individual decisions that those people took, do you think international governments and coast guards and navies should be mobilized to help a private expedition of very wealthy people taking a calculated risk?
I'm an engineer. That's not my area of specialty, but it is an excellent point of debate. Knowing that you are in an extraordinary situation where you have a vessel that only a few on the whole planet can go to, and it's almost impossible to do anything, I could see the argument saying that we will have to respect their decisions and let it go at that. But that is a legitimate debate.
Bart Kemper, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, I've also been speaking to the Irish businessman Oisin Fanning, who's been on 2 OceanGate expeditions to the Titanic, and began by telling me about what may have happened.
My hope is that something alongside the wreck or on the wreck has fallen, broken the antennae, and just trapped the sub there, so that its small little thrusters that it has to move around the ship would not be enough to break out, and that obviously we get a sub down there that will be able to release it. That'll be my fervent hope. I take some encouragement from the fact that they have heard noises, because quite frankly, having been down there, you don't hear any noises down there.
How much do you think about the risk when you're agreeing to go on one of those things?
Same way a guy jumps into a Formula One to do a round around the track does. I mean, you're aware of it. You've been told about the risk. You know how powerful they are. You know, you know how deep this is. So you're, of course, aware of a risk. But, I mean, you tend to mitigate that risk in your own head. And you're going to go and see the bottom of the sea at 4,000 meters. Very few people have ever managed to do that.
Yes, and I suppose the offer of that is so incredible. Do you know, is it the kind of thing that you do the due diligence on in the way that you would if it was, I don't know, something less tantalizing?
I mean, of course, you know it's a risk, and of course you accept to take the same way as you would if you were going into space. You know there's a risk. You're going to take the risk because you're going to do something unique that very few other people have.
And so the vital thing now is just to try and find its location.
Absolutely. Look, it should be on the wreck, in my opinion. I'm just, there's nothing else really that could trap it that I can see. So if it's not something, catastrophic, it has to be trapped somewhere on the rig. And if someone gets down there, it'll be very easy to find.
I mean, everybody who is watching this is obviously it's inescapable that you run through sort of some pretty horrific scenarios. That it's possible that you know where it is. It's possible that you can even get a sub to it, but that you can't set it free. And in that scenario, there is no way to rescue them, is there?
None at all. They have to be pulled free so that they can go up. They can go up under their own steam. It's designed to do that. But and the only reason it clearly hasn't gone up is something's holding it back. So if you can't pull it out, it's catastrophic.
Throughout the ages, explorers have lost their lives. Do you see this in the tradition of great exploration with great risk?
Well, yes, it is, because let's be honest, there have been more people in space than there ever been to the Titanic, indeed down to this depth in the ocean. I mean, the ocean is vastly unexplored. But people, sadly, in space, both in the Apollo program, the Challenger program, and every program, in fact, have lost their lives to further expectations in science. Not something you want to see ever happen, but we all know that it can happen. I think it was fair to say that everybody would have been mindful of the risks.
How hopeful do you feel tonight?
I'm actually hopeful. I'm hopeful because of their professionalism, and I'm also hopeful because the professionalism of the two people that are with them, they're two very serious businessmen, from what I can gather. I don't know either of them. I would think they would follow commands very, very judiciously, and you would find that they would be keeping their breathing calm, doing exactly what we're supposed to be hearing. I mean, I've no knowledge of it, but I've heard they're hearing an odd bang every 30 minutes. That would be exactly what they do. They conserve their energy because they would have known how long it would take for any RV or anything to get down to that depth. They would have known they would take days.
Ocean Fanning, thank you very much indeed.